Yo guys, what's going on? Hazy here. Welcome back to another deck profile today on the video. Over the weekend, we had another round of online regionals for the Oceania region, and we managed to get involved again. And this time we ran the Golden Frieza. Obviously, it did really well in the last event, come second. So looking for a different deck to play, so we thought we would give this one a go, mainly based around the fact that you could run the Gold Cooler SCR, and that was just something that I thought was a really cool idea to do. So we gave Frieza a run. Fortunately, we didn't have the greatest run. We went 2-4, and at one point I was 2-1, and then I went to 2-2, and then lost my last. So I pretty much lost my last 3 games. Overall, I think the deck ran really well. At 2-2, I was very happy with how I was going. I really had only made one mistake, and it was just in a big moment, which I think cost me my second game. So, one play different probably could have been a different situation. My second loss was against SS4, and it was just a game where he had every answer to everything that I had. So it was just one of those games that just wasn't meant to be. So overall, I was still happy at that point with my performance. And in my last 2 games, I played 2 of the starter deck Android 21s, and I just had no idea how to play around them. I tried different game plan in the second game. It didn't work that well, but I don't know. It probably wasn't a bad matchup for me, but I turned it into a bad matchup. So that is what it is. I still enjoyed it. I still think this deck did very well. I just don't think that I executed plans properly. But we live and we learn. So for those that don't know, this is set 1 Golden Frieza. Set 1, we're now in set 20, and this leader can still put in a job. So activate main on it. You choose a Frieza's army card, place it in its drop, switch an energy active mode, draw a card. In the awaken condition, when your life's at 4 or less, you draw 2 cards. So you have got self-awakeners in this deck to help you awaken, but I didn't really get stalled. I did get half stalled, I guess you could say, but like I said, the deck does have a lot of self-awakening in it, so that didn't end up being a problem for me. On this side, same thing again, except this time you untap 2 energy and draw 1 card, so that's just so good just to be able to untap 2, and with the amount of floodgates in this deck, it does build a lot of defense, and obviously when this card attacks, you draw a card. So not too much going on there. So we'll get into the little 8-drop, the 8 1-drops that we ran. So, 4 of the Ginyu, 4 of the Dagoma. So these guys just, normally you turn 1 play, if you don't have a Frieza's Call, even if you do have a Frieza's Call, you can search this out. So on play, you draw a card. Pretty simple. So they draw a card, replace themselves, and then you KO them, untap an energy, draw a card. So they just put in so much value for the deck. The other Frieza's Army cards that we use are the Frieza Malicious Strike. So these guys, when they are placed in the drop area, from the battle area, you can take a life. So these are part of the self-awakeners. Normally, if I wasn't playing into, say, like red or maybe like a more aggressive kind of deck, maybe into black, I would either side one of these out, or if I Frieza'd Call, I wouldn't bother to search for one of these. I would just search for the Dagoma, because they're naturally going to try and take my life. Like, that's their game plan, to take my life, not really stall me. So I didn't really feel the self-awakening was a massive need, but just even if I was at 1 energy, like if I only had 1 energy untapped and they'd controlled my board well, I could just play 1 and so this basically becomes like an untapped 1 just for playing it, which is such good value in this deck, because having 2 untapped going into your defense is so good. Our other self-awakener was the Master Roshi. So on play, you take a life, and then you can pay 1 to activate main to take another life. Search your deck, but the card obviously isn't in your deck. You can still search it out. Just make sure your pieces are there if you haven't done a Frieza's Call yet. And then they just become just great combo pieces. Just Z charge, because obviously you need a bit of Z energy in this deck for one of your floodgates. 4 Frieza's Call, because obviously you want to be able, if you can't find one of your 1-drops in your mulligan, or you find a Frieza's Call, you play 1, or you can play the Self-Awakener if you're getting stalled at any point. Or worst case, if you end up with a few of these, you can charge them, because there are an extra card which does make your riposte and my counterplay life. We'll go through our unisons. So we got 3 of the Gohan and High Dragon new powers, and 3 of the Z Fighter Gohans. So this unison, very, very good unison, synergizes the deck very well. plays out a 1-drop from the drop with its skills negated. So you can play this from the drop, KO it, draw a card, untap 2. The other thing you can do is, because it comes in with no skills, it does trigger your permanent to give your unison 10,000. So you can have a 15k swing, then pop this off. Sometimes you do have to just obviously be careful. You don't want to swing a 15k in case someone's got a play or something that can KO, or if you're playing someone that plays a rival, or green have got the Goku, I think it's the Goku counter that KOs a 4 cost. You just have to be careful. You don't want to end up obviously playing a target and losing it. The activate main never came up to just draw 1 card, because we normally always had targets. And you do have to just be careful like how you do it, because once or twice I did overwhelm that turn and cleared my drop, so I didn't have any targets left, so I had to play 1 from my hand, which it is what it is, but that's that. And then the Gohan, such a good unison for this deck, put in so much work for me. Unfortunately, in my last 2 games against Android 21, this fell victim in both games to the Android 21 SCR, because it just clears the board, including the unison. So to lose, so you play this, you normally get your Empower, because you'll be replacing it with this, and it'll have 2 to 3 markers on it. So it'll come out with 3 or 4 markers on. Come out with 5 or 6 markers on it, and you normally if I'm not trying to kill them straight away, I normally just +1 and draw, and then I just save myself, and I usually end up swinging, doing the -3 the following turn to give it triple attack and the 5k for your leader and your unison. So being able to swing triple attack and then play another one. So at that point, it'll probably come in with 6 markers again. You'll be able to do the neg again. So your leader will have your leader will be 25k base on your defense. And you've got 6 swing. Your opponent's got 6 25k swings to deal with. And obviously, if they're playing yellow, this does get through riposte. And if they are playing blue, the Android 21, I think it's Defending Friends. This clears it as well, because it's not a battle card. So you can generate essentially 6 swings for 3 energy with this. But like I said, in my Android 21 matchups, it just both times it got eaten. It had 5, 6 markers on it. And it just obviously loses so much value for me, because it is also a blocker, so you can just block an attack with it. But yeah, just losing the ability to be able to have 6 swings with it just really can hurt the deck. One of our bigger monsters is the Divine Transformation. This card, I can't quite remember. I don't think this got used as much as maybe I probably should have. There was a lot of matchups I was a bit scared. I was into my SS4 match. I didn't really want to use this, obviously, because it can just be negged very easily. Obviously, if you play it, red can just play the new Gohan, which will neg at 20k. It doesn't get and it won't hit obviously the counter attack thing, because it hasn't been played yet. But there is so many ways for red to neg this, and I didn't drop it in my 21 matchup. I was in 2 minds which one to drop, and lucky I didn't, because after talking to my opponent, he actually did have a very handy tech for this, which would have rendered it useless. But we'll actually go over what it does. I haven't done that. So when it's played, it's obviously deflex. It's going to hit the board. Double strike and blocker. Can't be removed by skills, which makes it so sticky. Against anything except red, it cannot pretty much be removed. So like I was saying, sorry, this can't be removed by skills, so it's very, very sticky if you get it off. Obviously, I do believe red is the only thing that gets around it, unless I suppose into yellow you can Final Flash it to remove its skills, but into blue, black, and green, if they don't know about the Majin Buu tech. So once per turn, if they activate a counterattack, you choose 2 cards, switch them to rest mode, and they can't be switched back to active mode. So it basically really slows them down. If you can get this down turn 5, and they do try to counter the attack, when they're starting either their 6th turn or their 5th turn, they're going to have 2 less energy, which hurts them a lot. So it does affect them if they're trying to defend it. But when it's played, it KOs all battle cards in rest mode, not ignoring barrier. There's something about flipping life up, but we're not playing in the Frieza flip. And at the end of the turn, you switch it to active mode, so you can just swing a double strike with it, and it just restands at the end of the turn to do some blocking. And it was a good card when you get it off. It is a great card, but I probably didn't utilize it. I definitely do see the cooler as more of a win con kind of thing, and if I didn't feel that I could win that turn with the Frieza, with the cooler, I did opt to go for the Frieza. So our floodgates, we've got 3 of the Vegetos, and of course 4 of the Post. Riposte, if you run any less than 4, this deck just does not work as good. This guy is like the MVP of the deck. Like, floodgates him, and you can then either swing a 15k body, or you can just pop it, untap 2, and draw a card. So this card probably generates the most value in the deck, you'd have to say, just because it's a 1-cost negate that floodgates him, and you can also pop it to untap 2 energy and draw a card, as well as a 15k swing if you want to. Vegeta actually did not come up anywhere near as much as I thought it would. I even thought that maybe even 2 of these would be all right, because I found obviously you want to be playing this instead of this. If they're playing a Unison heavy deck, yeah, sure, go for this. But this is always what you want to be playing. And realistically, you cycle through your deck so much, I didn't really have much trouble seeing less than 3 of these. I was always seeing at least 3 or 4 of these per game. This guy I did see fairly often as well, but again, if you've got these 2 in hand, you're going to play this. And if you don't think the opponent is going to keep swinging through it, there is no need for this. I did have a few times where I did double. If I knew I was setting up for cooler, if cooler or the Frieza was definitely coming down next turn, I would double floodgate them just to make sure that that the turn finished like that. The thing that did sort of hinder a little bit is a lot of people obviously know that this is your target for your untap. So if you did get this and the turn was going to be it, I did play 2 black matchups, and both times they did just play the Majin Buu and just eat this up with the Majin Buu. So they always did play around the Frieza. I didn't get to use the Frieza to untap anywhere near as much as I had in testing. My opponents did actually do very well in controlling this being on the board. So that way, obviously I did lose a card for untapping, which does, if you really are trying to push them on turn 5, having one of these out from the turn before is so critical to untapping, especially if you've got the Gohan Unison out, you can't play a 1-drop from the drop. Being able to play down the cooler or the Frieza and then untap 2 to have 2 up for defense regardless, you've either really crippled them with cooler or you've done some damage with Frieza. And being able to have 2 to untap again is really key. If I didn't have that, it was really hard to set up. I had to sort of aim to set up for killing on turn 6, even turn 7, depending on how things were going. And it definitely did halt my plan in a few games. I believe my SS4 matchup, I was all set for turn 4, and they did it does have so much neg in it. They did neg the Frieza, so I couldn't play it. The other thing that I ran into with the SS4 matchup is they kept Omen of Awakening my floodgates, so that really did hurt me. If you play heavy floodgate counters against this deck, it can hurt. Obviously, that was only the one matchup that I really ran into someone countering the floodgates, but if they counter it, they've got it. There's not much you can do about it, and it really does hurt if you are starting to rely on these a bit, because you are in the Gohan Unison trying to close out game. There was one game I was able to work it really well. It was I believe it was a turn 6 play against Majin Vegeta. I had one of these. I dropped a cooler. I dropped a cooler. I had one of these. I was able to untap and go into the Gohan. So I was able to swing with the cooler, try and do as much as I could with the cooler, neg the Gohan, 3 swings with the Gohan, and then play out an Oolong to close the game. So these were really key in the late game, especially, like I said, if you are in the Unison. But they do a lot of work for the deck. This, like I said, I didn't get to use this as much. I never had a Z battle card in place, so I couldn't negate the strike for the turn. I don't know, I don't find this deck as reliant on a Z deck, so the negating the opponent's strike doesn't come up very often. But it, like, when I needed it, it did its job. But I definitely didn't need it as much as I needed this. So I would probably nearly consider cutting this to 2, but to having an extra floodgate, you kind of do want to have. But that's the floodgate package. Now we'll move on to the super combo. Super combo, Krillin. Pretty much the main super combo of this deck. As you do have a lot of extra cards, you don't want to be stuck with them. Or just to help filter out, find some more pieces. I did almost consider cutting this to maybe like a 2-2 split with just a regular yellow super combo that did get 10k if you weren't at 4 life, because I was a little bit worried about the red matchups. Obviously, you want to go down to 4 life. If you into Sin, they can take you down really quickly. And I didn't want to be at a case where I was at like 5 life. They're swinging a double strike at me. I don't want to go down to 3. I can't awaken to get 5k. My super combos aren't live. I have to combo a fair few cards out of hand because you don't want to be going from 5 to 3, especially in this deck. You want to try and just get to 4, and then you can stay at 4 for a while. So I did think about like changing the super combo, but I didn't in the end. Obviously, I only ran into one matchup where the heavy aggression wasn't a problem. So this was definitely the super combo for me for the weekend. I did see it enough. Obviously, you do filter a lot through the deck. Little techie bit. This isn't really a tech. This is a sideboard, but I was worried that a fair few people would be prepared for Golden Frieza. So I didn't want to be like, have it in my sideboard and think, I might side it in this game. I literally just put it in the main board. If I never needed it, I could always filter it away. Or if I needed to, I could just combo it 1 for 10k. Because if I feel like that was probably going to be the last swing of the turn, I would just combo it if I had an energy open. So if you don't know what it does, it's 1 yellow. If your lead is yellow, you place it from your hand in your drop. You draw a card, choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and they get neg 5k. So this is really key because the blue hate cards, and in my first 3 games, my opponents did play the blue hate card. So if you untap with a non-awakened skill, you lose a life and a energy. No, energy and life? I don't know, sorry, you just lose an energy. Thankfully, in my first game, it was into black, and the Vegeta doesn't actually, you don't lose an energy from the Vegeta. You just warp a card from hand, which isn't too bad in this deck, because you do tend to have a rather big hand size. For the sake of, if it's getting an untap 2, you can obviously just untap 2, warp a card. Like, you're happy to warp a card and untap 2 instead of not untapping 2. But like I said, I did actually do that once because I didn't have this in hand, and then I made a play to get rid of it, because obviously this deck doesn't have a hell of a lot of removal. It's just, if anything, resting stuff. But this did come up well. I believe I actually used it against Android 21. They'd played out the new promo, which was only a 4k, so just sort of got rid of it, just so they couldn't combo it off, mix around their energy. So this did its job. I left it in my deck the whole time. It did its job whenever I needed it. Like I said, you don't tend to struggle to see things. So we played 1 Zarbon. I didn't use this all day. I actually wish that I'd cut it. On your opponent's turn, if you combo with it, you can restand 1 of your cards. So if, for instance, they're swinging just like a 15k or a 20k at this, you can just block. They might just go, yeah, whatever, I can't kill it. So they're not going to combo. Oh, sorry. They probably might opt not to combo it, or they might combo just to 25. You just combo the Zarbon, and Zarbon will restand it, so you can block another attack. So if you just want to get out of an easy attack, you can just combo the Zarbon, combo it off, it restands, and then you can block another card, which is very handy. But like I said, I didn't use it at all. I just kept siding it out, so I kind of wish that I'd cut it, as my games weren't going as deep as they thought they would, which is a little bit unfortunate. But so we ran 1 Cooler and 1 Steadfast. Obviously, I really would like the Sin promos for this, but we haven't got them here in Oceania yet, so hopefully we get them in the next week. Steadfast, it didn't come up once. I was in it, it was going to come up in my Android 21 matchup, my first one, but unfortunately, there was some bad decisions made there by me. I wasn't too sure. The Android 21 does control your hand very well. I was at a point I had this, Release from Evil, and Cold Bloodlust in my hand, and I opted to keep this for a counterplay because I had an energy up. I had to get rid of, and I thought I had a Unison on board, so I kept my Release from Evil, and I got rid of my Cold Bloodlust. He ended up, I didn't expect him to tap 7 to play from the energy because I was still at 4 life, but sadly he did, and I'd gotten rid of my Cold Bloodlust. The Cooler, I did have it at 2 during my testing, but it never ever come up for me because, like, a lot of the time you're tapping 5 to go into Cooler or Frieza, and maybe on like a turn 6 you can negate it, but I didn't see this having much value in this deck because if they're going to counter the Cooler swing, you're just going to restand and swing it. The only time this would really matter is if you're into like yellow and you just want to, and they like try and Release from Evil or Time Magic it, then this has come up. But this literally feels like the only time that I actually felt that I would need that, unless of course it was actually going for game, but a lot of the time it was with Cooler. It was with the Golden Cooler, so I was just able to keep restanding and swinging again. So that's why I just left it at 1. These didn't actually, I don't think I actually dropped either of them throughout the day, which is a bit unfortunate. Overrealm, Master ID, one of the MVPs of the deck, does so much control. Like, obviously this deck doesn't have a lot of just straight up removal, and a lot of the time, if I did struggle to find the Gohan Videl, and they did have some blue hate and a couple of other cards, I could just play this, warp away stuff, cost 6 or less. One game I did get rid of Zamasu, Deity's Wrath with it. Obviously that taxes you 1 card each time it swings. I'd Final Flashed it, then I played this. I warped it away, and just does like control the board a bit. I mean, if your opponent has 1 or 2 blockers, and you're trying to set up your kill turn, you don't want them to be able to use the blocker straight up, but you don't want to try and bait it out. So you just play this, warp it away, and you've got a 25k body on board. So again, so good having this back. So good having this back. Our secondary SCR, obviously, our one of Power of the Super Saiyan. Every time it comes up, it's always handy just to rest something, draw a card. Just so good. I actually used it as a counter once because I believe I was out of options. 2 Release from Evil, such a good card in this deck. Really can slow your opponent down. I actually dropped this on my in my SS4 matchup. Just Release from Evil, his SCR. Unfortunately, he'd already seen my hand, so he knew that what was in my hand. But to be able to negate a quad strike is just so crazy. And yeah, it's free with the Unison, so we pretty much always had a Unison on board. So just a free negator skills. 1 Final Flash, as I said, used it on Deity's Wrath. Didn't get to use it many other. I really feel like in testing, I utilized this very well. And unfortunately today, I didn't see it when I probably could have used it the most. So I probably would nearly consider, obviously I would cut the Zarwon. I'd probably nearly think about putting this at 2, just because of how critical I felt this was for me in testing. If people do swing something big at you, obviously Release from Evil is good, but if they want to drop a massive combo, you can just negate it. Negate the skills. So it just becomes like a single strike if they swing a big strike at you. So I really felt that this card suited me very well, and I probably needed to run a second one of it. 1 Realm of the Gods. I didn't find this coming up very often. I probably considered, if anything, I think I used this once just to draw a card, rest a couple of cards when my opponent was floodgated, just to give him less swings. So it did its job the one time I used it, but I probably would maybe run a second one just to keep a bit more consistency, to be able to just draw an extra card and stuff like that. Because sometimes, a lot of the times, if you leave like 3 energy up, if you pay 2, untap 1, pay 2 for something, and then you untap 2, and you got 3 up, and you floodgate them, you sort of lose a lot of value. And to be able to like draw a card and just use one of your energy just to cycle another card, I think would have probably maybe been a bit more helpful for me. But yeah, I probably would consider actually nearly running this and Final Flash at 2. That's just my personal opinion. 1 Frieza's Army. I think I used this once. Like I said, the only time I feel like you actually want to use this in a deck at the moment is if you're trying to go from 5 to 4 and you're being stalled. a lot of the time you've got you might have your final flash or a release from evil in hand. So if you are trying to stop a double strike or a triple strike, you can just release from evil it, because you can take a life for this. And a lot of the time at the moment there is removal for things like that. Obviously people can overwhelm Master ID. Black's got the Boo that takes a card. There's a fair bit of removal going around at the moment. So I don't feel like this is very necessary in the deck, but if you do get stalled at 5-4, you can just obviously pop a token negate. And at the end of the day, it's an extra card charge. 2 time magic. I played 1 yellow matchup, and I didn't really play anything that had a lot of dual attacks apart from the Android 21 SCR. So 2 of this was fine. I don't think I would run any less. Definitely wouldn't run any more. If I ever needed it, it was the job. It was a sparking 5, worst case. So I feel like you could probably get a bit more value if using the sparking 5 to take a life and stop something from being able to restand like a dual attack over the Frieza's army. Obviously, you must have 1 Cold Bloodlust in this deck. This card clutched up very big in my first matchup against SS4 Goku, the black one. They played the Cumber, and I just Cold Bloodlust it. So I think I was at 3 life at that stage. So he didn't get to look through my life, didn't get to play a card. He had no skills, so I could still floodgate him that turn if I had to. And then next turn, I just was able just to straight remove the Cumber. So this probably was a very big key to me winning my first game. And I would probably actually, now that I think about it, probably actually save me against my Margin Vegeta matchup. I think it might have been my last swing I had with my cooler. He comboed the Gohan SCR. He had his hand was obviously crippled. Played the Gohan. I responded with this, so he wasn't able to draw another card and rest one of my cards to negate another swing, which did actually come very, very clutch, because I believe after that I got riposte. So it would have been 1 less card to tap down, which ultimately got me 1 more swing, which won the game. So I guess I could probably say that this card won me 2 games, just having it and using it at the right moment. So I was very, very happy with that. 1 Tyrannical Blow. I only own 1. I probably would have ran 2 if I had a second one. I did have Begrudging Allies in my side deck, which I feel like it's a hard call, because this doesn't stop it just negates its skills, so it stops the floodgates. But some cards you probably would prefer them not being played at all. Some of the Android 21Z battle cards, or there's certain cards you would just prefer them not being played. It never come up because I actually very, very rarely saw it, which was very surprising. So, which is why I would consider having 2. But I think I saw Begrudging Allies when I cited it in more than this, which is a little bit unfortunate. And of course, our SCR was the Golden Cooler. Such a good card. Probably did make my eyes light up a bit more, maybe push for the kill when I didn't maybe need to. I could have held back, slowly worked the opponent down. Not too sure. Maybe I didn't. I definitely didn't test against enough of the different colors. I really only tested against yellow and a bit against the Android 21, the newest one. So probably didn't get the most ideal practice with this, but I still enjoyed using this. I love this card, and I'm normally attracted to decks that can play cards that I like or do things that I like. And being able to play this, cripple your opponent's hand, and just continuously swing with it is just so key. It won me my first game. It was a massive factor in winning my second game. And I only won 2 games. So between this and Cold Bloodlust as a key combo, because if you that's where I get back to, if you are playing this turn 5, being able to have a riposte on board to untap 2 and making the Cold Bloodlust live, if they do try and floodgate you or something like that, is very key. But nonetheless, this card, I would still love this card. I would consider running this deck again, even though it didn't work out super well for me. I think with some more practice, I can do a lot better with this deck. I just really like this card. Double strike blocker. When it's played, you choose all your opponent's battle cards, warp them, and your opponent keeps 5 cards in their hand, adds the rest of their Z energy. And this card also gets barrier. So, and it has the activate main battle, where I did actually work this very well. When I tested this against Red Sin, I made 1 vital error, and I was activating main to restand it, and it left the door open during Sin's activate battle to Z Awaken, which left me not being able to, which left him with 1 Z energy, so I wasn't able to restand. Or if I had have restood an activate battle, he would have only had 6 Z energy, and he wouldn't have been able to Z Awaken, which the Z Awaken can be obviously a big key. So in my matchup against SS4 against Margin Vegeta, I did that in activate battle. I was able to get him down from, I believe, the 5 to 3 that he was going to have to take would have left him, I think, with 1 Z energy or 2 Z energy. I can't quite remember, but it actually just stopped him completely from being able to Z Awaken. And if he had a Z charge, I would have just been able to do the same thing, take the cards, and then restand again. He still wouldn't have been able to Z Awaken, which the one thing I struggled with against Margin Vegeta, obviously, is they just blow the board up and go down to 1 life. So you either got to get them to 1 life just slowly, or you have to stop them from Z Awaken, which is what this did. And not being able to Z Awaken, not blowing the board up was key, because I was able to obviously close out the game because they couldn't blow the board up. The side deck, we'll go through Z deck first. 2 of the Vegeta, obviously barrier removal is very key. Does cost 3, which can be a bit exy, but when you're untapping 2, you don't really mind paying 3 for things. Like I said, I did drop this on Cumber, just paid 3, dropped it on Cumber to remove it. Yes, I lost it, but being able to pay 3 to remove Cumber, it was just, I just felt was so much value. And if you do KO something in rest mode, your game's critical. I did get a couple of swings out of it, but I literally only used it for removal. Gamma, this never come up, but I probably could have used it more than once. So the only thing it's really good for, you place 1 card from your hand at the bottom of your deck, remove this card, and until the end of your opponent's next turn, if your opponent activates Villainous or a counter, you draw 1 card. So if like you're playing against, I guess you could say like blue, and they are just countering so much, if you had have popped this, you would just keep drawing cards. 1 Oolong. Oolong closed me out of game. Cooler had done the damage. I was able to play an Oolong, copy Cooler's 40k, and just swing a 40k. Just being able to copy a card and just getting it to 40k, especially like a 40k line, is just absolutely massive. 1 Surmounting, just in case we got stalled. This did get used once, but obviously we have enough Self-Awakening in the deck that it wasn't a problem. And of course, one Evolved Defender. We probably use this card I guess you could say the most. I probably used this 2 times, whereas all the other cards I might have only used once. I did originally want to tee this up with the 3-drop Super Namekian Lord Slug, but during testing I just couldn't get it off, so I opted not to do it. But I did play this once or twice. Used it in my first game just to lock down my opponent's leader, just to like stall his Awaken. And just have a bit more of an advantage for me. So when it's played, you can choose a leader, battle, or unison card in rest mode, and it can't attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. So if I believe like it was in SS4 Goku, Awakens at 4 life. I'd left them at 5. I played this so they couldn't swing the next turn to take a life to get into Awaken range, and on their Awaken side they are double strike and whatnot. So the other one, if this card's in rest mode, when your opponent plays a card, you may place a Z energy in the drop and choose the battle or unison card and switch it to rest mode and negate the skill when they play it. This never come up because a lot of the time I was only really at 2 or 3 Z energy most of the time in the games that I did use this. So you pay 2 for it, and you need to have 2 Z energy to make Vegito live. So you sort of always want to make sure you have 2 Z energy. The other time I could have used it, I was floodgated at the time, and I just didn't see the point of dropping a card from hand for it. But the game that I did use this, it did work very well. And now we will get on to our side deck. So we had 1 Trunks the Cunning. We all know what that's for. And I didn't run into any big blue matchups today. So we definitely liked having this, but I definitely preferred not running into any ramp matchups today. 1 Godly Destruction Whis in case I ran into the mirror. And like I said, I managed to play around people using these cards very well, so I was really happy. 1 Black Mask because, I don't know, I probably didn't really need this in the end, but it was there if I needed it. 2 Nimbus, which come in the red and the come in I think 3 matchups. Just the ones that I thought were going to be heavy battle card. Obviously the SS4 does play a lot of overwhelms. The red can play a lot of matchups, and obviously it does floodgate them, and you you can't have your floodgate negated unless they're going to straight counter, which red just doesn't have. So this when I needed it, it was very helpful. So I definitely think this was it was probably like the MVP of the side deck, I guess you could say. 2 Vegeta of Unison, Unison of Fury. This was definitely another one for the big boy matchup. So like obviously if I ran into a Supreme Kai of Time, or I believe I sided this in for my SS4 matchup. Obviously it does play a lot of like 6-cost overwhelms, and for the SS and for the red matchups, just because they play the big bodies. So obviously you can activate main, you can switch card to rest mode. So even if you like do use this, you can add a marker to it without having to rest this. So you can like if you have one of the 1-drops on board and it's in active mode, you can just rest that to give this a marker. So you can get an extra 15k swing. And then you neg 1, so they can't attack with cards greater than their energy until the end of their next turn. I never did get to play it, but the bottom one, you choose one of your opponent's energy, switch it to rest mode, and this card gets 5,000 power, double strike, dual attack for the turn. So very, very, can be very taxing, but obviously we didn't get to use it. 2 Begrudging Allies, just in case, like for the red, for the yellow matchups, I believe I did side this against red, just in case they had topos. And blue for the Android 18s. So this is a counterplay. If it's 3 or less, it goes to the warp instead of being played. It is 2 cost, but if you're at 4 or less, it becomes a 1 cost. So I feel like juggling between this and Tyrannical Assault just depends. If you don't want them playing the card, Begrudging Allies. But if you're happy for them to play the card, you're happy to run Tyrannical Assault. Tyrannical Blow. 1 Chi-Chi for the blue hate. Obviously, sided this in the matchups that I had, but didn't really run into many Dimension Magics anyway. 1 Coins for the yellow matchup, just to slow down the floodgates. And I think there was another matchup I sided. I can't quite remember what other matchup it was. And 2 Black Smoke. This boy did job when he come in. I don't know if he was MVP over the Flying Nimbus in terms of the side deck, but when I needed him, I used him against SS4, warped away the Unison as soon as I could, but unfortunately my opponent had another Unison in hand, so the very next turn he just slapped down another one. So yeah, I believe I played him once or twice to draw, but I mainly used him for the SS4 matchup when I warped away the Unison. So there we go, guys. That will be the deck profile. Hope you did enjoy it today. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe. We're closing in on 100 followers. 100 subscribers. I should hopefully have a few more deck profiles coming out this week. A couple of the guys have been happy enough to agree to do a couple of deck profiles with me to help give the channel a few more deck profiles that just aren't my my shitty 2-4 records. So appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you all soon.